Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Today we are about to discuss transport electron.
Cell transport is the process of how things move in or out of the cell through the cell membrane. There are two broad categories of cell transport. The first category is passive transport. For a cell, passive transport means it's an automatic process that doesn't require any input of energy. For example, diffusion is a passive process in which particles move either into or out of the cell from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration. The cell doesn't use any energy when this happens. The second category of cell transport is active transport. This is when particles move from an area of lower concentration to an area of higher concentration. When particles move against the concentration gradient, energy is required, often to allow protein pumps to assist in particle movement. Why would the cell need to move particles from a low to high concentration and expend energy to do it? An important example is seen in your heart muscle cells. In order for your heart to beat, there are certain molecules that have to move from an area of low concentration to an area of high concentration for those cardiac muscle cells to work. So the main things to remember are: passive transport happens automatically with no energy required, while active transport needs energy for it to occur.
Active transport is a type of cell transport that requires the input of energy in the form of ATP. The proteins that conduct this form of transport are often called pumps because they force molecules or ions to move from an area of low concentration to an area of high concentration. This is commonly referred to as against the concentration gradient. One of the more common examples of active transport is the sodium-potassium pump. The job of the sodium-potassium pump is to move sodium ions, or Na+, out of the cell, and potassium ions, or K+, into the cell. Let's take a closer look at how this happens. The sodium-potassium pump has binding sites for 3 sodium and 2 potassium ions. Let's follow the movement of the sodium ions first. After 3 sodium ions are positioned within the carrier protein, an ATP molecule is split, releasing phosphate. This phosphate binds to a location on the exterior of the carrier protein, causing the protein to change shape. As the protein changes shape, the 3 sodium ions are released to the other side of the membrane. Next, 2 potassium ions position themselves within the carrier protein, causing it to undergo another change in shape. In the process, the phosphate molecule is released. Once the phosphate molecule is released, the carrier protein expels the potassium ions into the interior of the cell. The carrier then resumes its initial shape, completing the cycle. Notice that for every 3 sodium ions leaving the cell, 2 potassium ions enter. Since both sodium and potassium ions have a positive charge, this unequal movement causes an electrical gradient to develop across the plasma membrane of the cell. A number of cellular processes, including the generation of nerve impulses, use this electrical gradient.